To under pressure.
The Miles City Fire Department is falling apart and it's only getting worse.
We're concerned that a heavy wind could, drop this structure.
But finally, a solution could be on the way.
Plus, tools of the trade.
I want my younger sister to be able to look at me and be like, there's actually something I can do with life after high school. And I just kind of feel like stepping up to the plate and becoming that role model.
Nearly 100 high schoolers get a sneak peek inside the National Guard.
And solving a shortage.
This is an issue that we all have to have a stake in it.
One group aims to attract more students into the healthcare fields. We'll tell you how.
The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Andrea Lutz. We're going to get to those stories in a minute, but first, School District 2 has a new superintendent.
That selection coming late tonight after the three finalists each went through hour-long interviews with the school board. David J. was on hand and introduces us to the candidate who'll take over for Greg Upham.
The School District 2 board interviewed the three finalists on Wednesday night for the next superintendent. The board asked the same questions of each candidate in the final part of the process.
Roll call vote. An affirmative vote means that we will offer Dr. Garcia the contract to be superintendent of our school district. The motion passes.
Board Chair Scott McCullough announces the next superintendent. Dr. Erwin Garcia has been the area superintendent for the Houston Independent School District since 2021 and with the district since 2007.
Please share with us your knowledge of and experience with the professional learning community model. How do you keep people engaged in implementing PLCs?
Planning in a backwards design model, the daily lessons allows the teachers to be better equipped to deliver quality, high quality, aligned instruction.
He received support during public comment.
Imagine choosing Mr. Garcia, him meeting our expectations, and having Brenda alongside as the A team for this district.
We are in need of change in this district, and I believe Dr. Garcia is the candidate who can lead that change.
Dr. Garcia is the best man for the job, and that is who this district needs.
We're for the superintendent candidate, Dr. Edwin Garcia.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
And tonight, Billings Central High School announced that Nolan Trafton has been selected as their new principal.
Trafton is a Billings Central graduate and received his teaching degree from MSU Billings. He then returned to Central as a teacher and the head soccer coach, while also serving on various school board committees.
The search committee was composed of parents, board members, and school faculty. Trafton will take over for Shell Hanser, who is stepping down to join a family business after more than 20 years as principal.
Working in instability tonight, the very latest on an effort in Miles City to get a new fire station built before the situation and the current building buckle under the pressure. It has been a few years since I told you about the Miles City fire station deemed unsafe by 3 different building inspectors. Turns out the building has only gotten worse. City officials searched for a solution. I found out that there could be one on the way in the form of a voter-approved bond.
On a super windy day in eastern Montana, or when the snow piles up, Miles City firefighters prepare for the worst.
We're concerned that a heavy wind could, drop this structure.
Not just any structure, the city's only fire department.
When we start getting winds over 50 miles an hour, we pull everything out of here and we move crews around so that they're not in danger.
This equipment and its firefighters serve as the lifeline for Miles City and beyond, where 85% of calls are medical.
The area where the crews used to be.
That's why Fire Chief Brandon Stevens says it's problematic that firefighters must drive 12 minutes round trip to get their ladder truck. It's not even kept at the station because the city's insurance doesn't cover anything inside the building.
In this business, every second counts. We don't want that delay. We want that delay to be zero.
But the scope of the situation is much worse than that.
The foundation is shifted, getting water entering into the building. The wood framing is rotted,
making the station unlivable for firefighters who work 24-hour shifts.
So we've had all kinds of issues with that.
Firefighters now stay here in these oil-filled cabins just feet away from their fire engines, but up until recently the plumbing in these breaking down too.
Unfortunately, we're not able to use the bathrooms Yeah,
So in the middle of the night, if you had to go to the bathroom, you have to still go back into the other building.
yeah, they have to get up, go outside, and go into the building.
Firefighter Eddie Kandech says the separation bleeds into the crew.
You want to know your crew and build that cohesion, so when you go in on a fire or whatever emergency might be going on, you know each other and you have that relationship built up.
The issue has gone on for 5 years now.
It's been heavy on all our hearts, unfortunately. Yeah.
But Mayor John Hollowell says council recently voted to ask taxpayers to approve a $3.9 million bond at an upcoming election to replace the building where it currently stands.
It's not the best. We're not the West, or I guess you would say, or have the resources that other places have.
Back in 2018, when inspectors deemed the building unsafe, Chief Stevens says they almost had an emergency of their own.
They stepped through the upper support members of the roof.
The area below where it happened, now storage. Stevens says the station is a liability, already costing taxpayers.
I reached out to the Custer County Elections Office to learn when that bond election will go before voters. They tell me they anticipate it to be either in the primary or the general election.
From Black Hawk helicopters to Abrams tanks, nearly 100 high schoolers got a sneak peek at the tools that National Guard members use during the Billings Armory shop tour this morning. Juniors and seniors from schools across the region got to interact with Army gear, vehicles, and weapon systems. It's all part of the National Guard's effort to recruit future military members. Members like 18-year-old Laurel High School student Justice Paige Brooks, who was just recruited into the 44th Military Police Company.
I want my younger sister to be able to look at me and be like, there's actually something I can do with life after I get done with high school. Like there's a whole different world. And I just kind of feel like stepping up to the plate and becoming that role model.
Me being able to engage with these young folks that are coming into the organization, knowing that one day they're going to be hoisting people up from a floodplain, or they're going to be delivering food, water, and supplies to people that are trapped in their home on the High Line. That's a real big deal to me, knowing that I'm ushering in that next generation of leaders.
Sergeant Dan Moosfeld does say that recruiting hasn't been as easy as it was in the past. Demonstrations like these are worth it to show future generations another tool they can use to get their degree and serve their country.
Now to more coverage of the big challenges confronting Montana's healthcare industry.
Tonight, a closer look at the worker shortage impacting hospitals, not just here in Billings, but all across the country.
Our Haley Monaco tells us about one group in Billings working for solutions.
Hundreds of high school students from across the state are in Billings this week for the annual Montana HOSA event, participating in multiple competitions and learning about different healthcare professions with a bigger goal in mind.
It's neat to see people investing in the future of our students.
As a healthcare worker shortage continues to impact the nation, this group is working to empower future health professionals. The event Wednesday, held at the new Rocky Vista University, included more than 350 high school students, all interested in joining the medical field.
As high up on the limb as I possibly can. Tighten it down.
Columbia Falls Juniors Canyon Masters and Isla McKenzie were competing as a team in a hypothetical emergency scenario.
Probably one of the coolest experiences of my life, and there's just been so many new opportunities that I've seen through this as a club that I haven't seen in a lot of other places throughout the school districts, so it's really neat.
The Montana Director of Health Occupations Students of America, or HOSA, says there has always been an interest in high school students joining the healthcare workforce. But now, with the help of community partners, the students are already getting jobs.
We have a lot of kids already starting their careers in entry-level positions, and so I just think it's cool to see the way that people have come together to address that workforce shortage in our state.
Here in Montana, both Billings Clinic and St. Vincent Healthcare both currently have about 220 job postings each on their sites. Some of those jobs have been open since 2021. Ronan student Alora Baker understands the importance of getting more workers in the healthcare profession. Her presentation addressed a shortage of respiratory therapists.
There's a desperate need for respiratory therapists in Montana.
An organization getting students interested and available to join the workforce in an industry that greatly needs them.
It's been really neat to see the community partners all really come together and realize that this is an issue that we all have to have a stake in.
In Billings, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
Well, everybody knows by now we're going to start to see the beginning of a warm-up, but with that comes an increased threat of some melting snow that will cause some areas of localized flooding. We have about the average amount of snow in the mountains, but near record amounts right about mid-range of the mountains, and that could start to push down and create some areas where ice jams are a big concern. We could certainly see that some of the mountain foothill locations where the ice just jams up and then diverts the water and it comes over its banks. The Powder, the Tongue, the Yellowstone rivers in southeastern Montana could also have some concerns with that. And in addition, even if there's a lot of snow around your home, your foundation, also be watching for culverts, ditches, and storm drains to potentially flood. More with the weather coming up.
Spring is here, but it still looks very much like winter near communities like Red Lodge. And when you have snow in April that's taller than I am, you can only imagine the challenges that it poses for wildlife.
There was a kind of snowfall that I remember back in the 80s, like Montana got all the time.
On March 25th, when Red Lodge was drilled with feet of fresh powder, most people stayed inside to stay warm. But how does the wildlife in Montana deal with it?
Definitely harder for them. Like in my mind's eye, I see bears, poking their head out of the dens and like going, nope, going back to bed.
John Potter lives in Red Lodge and has all sorts of regular visitors to his yard throughout the year, including these turkeys on Wednesday. And many animals don't seem built for the snow. But Zoo Montana director Jeff Ewald says not to worry too much about our four-legged friends.
The animals in Montana, and really across the globe, obviously, have adaptations to handle heavy snow. So think of lynx and their big giant feet that act as snowshoes. You can talk about wolverines have a specialized tooth that's rotated in their mouth that allows them to eat frozen meat.
Even those who don't look built for Montana winters often will just will their way through them.
When the female eagles, and this could be any bird, are sitting on a nest of eggs and a snowstorm comes like this, they will not move and they will stay on those eggs, and literally snow will pile on top of them, and the male will come in and usually brush what it can away.
In fact, Ewald says worrying too much about animals can be one of our biggest mistakes.
We as humans tend to feel bad for wildlife that's out there, but you got to remember that's what they're built for, and they don't need the handout. In fact, feeding an animal during the winter could be one of the worst things you can do for an animal because they become reliant on that.
And being able to observe so many species right outside his back door, it's a statement Potter knows to be true.
They're built for it. They've been doing this for millions of years before humans came along. They got a lot of stuff figured out.
In Red Lodge, Phil Van Pelt, MTN News.
Still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news on Q2, yoga at the Yam, the museum getting creative to try and counteract that declining attendance.
And in sports, an ace in the hole, this Columbus pitcher striking it big on the mound and in the batter's box. We'll meet our athlete of the week coming up just a bit.